In the early hours of May 7, 2025, the skies over South Asia lit up with missile trails, roaring jet engines, and the ominous tension of war. India and Pakistan, two nuclear-armed neighbors with a long and volatile history, found themselves hurtling toward a significant military confrontation. What started as a tragic attack in Kashmir quickly spiraled into one of the tensest standoffs between the two nations in recent memory. The chain of events was set in motion on April 22, 2025, in the scenic town of Pahalgam, located in Indian-administered Kashmir. Militants, armed and ruthless, targeted a group of tourists, resulting in the deaths of 28 civilians, predominantly Hindus. The Pahalgam tragedy horrified India and ignited widespread outrage. Protests erupted across the country, demanding decisive action against terrorism and the militant infrastructure allegedly operating across the border in Pakistan. In an official statement, Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemned the attack on civilians and asserted that Pakistan has no role whatsoever in the incident. Calling for an independent international investigation, Pakistan demanded that credible evidence be presented, asserting that blaming Pakistan without proof was an attempt to divert attention from internal security lapses. The emotional weight of the attack, which specifically targeted civilians during a peaceful gathering, placed immense pressure on the Indian government to respond. On May 7, 2025, India's answer came in the form of Operation Sindoor. The operation's name, symbolizing the red powder worn by married Hindu women, emotionally referenced the widows left behind by the Pahalgam massacre. In a meticulously planned 23-minute window, the Indian Air Force launched precision strikes on 9 locations deep inside Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Key targets included Bahawalpur, Meerut, and Muzaffarabad, areas believed to host militant infrastructures of groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. India maintained that these were focused, measured, and non-escalatory strikes, aimed solely at terrorist infrastructure, without harming civilians or engaging the Pakistani military directly. Pakistan, however, viewed the strikes differently, condemning them as an unprovoked act of aggression. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif accused India of violating Pakistani sovereignty and causing civilian casualties. He labeled the attacks cowardly and vowed a robust retaliation. The military buildup along the line of control, LOC, was swift and intense. Over the next several days, cross-border artillery fire, drone incursions, and airspace violations became alarmingly common. The LOC, already heavily militarized, turned into a live wire of hostility. The situation rapidly escalated, leading to one of the largest aerial engagements in South Asian history. On the very day of the Indian strikes, May 7th, reports began emerging of a massive aerial confrontation involving nearly 125 fighter jets from both sides. In sheer scale and intensity, it was a dogfight unlike anything seen in the region since the cargo conflict of 1999. Pakistan claimed it had shot down 5 Indian aircraft, 3 Rafale fighter jets, a MiG-29, and a Su-30 Mki. India, however, flatly denied these claims, asserting that no aircraft were lost. Adding complexity to the situation, a French intelligence official informed CNN that 1 Indian Rafale was indeed downed by Pakistani forces. U.S. intelligence assessments shared through official leaks suggested that Pakistani J-10C aircraft, Chinese-built multi-role fighters, successfully downed at least 2 Indian jets, including a Dassault Rafale. Despite India's denial, videos and images circulated online, allegedly showing the wreckage of downed aircraft. The confrontation showcased the technological modernization of both militaries. India deployed its Rafale fleet, armed with long-range Scalp cruise missiles and ASM hammer bombs. Reports also indicated the use of Israeli-made Harab kamikaze drones and the Indo-Israeli Skystriker loitering munitions for deep penetration strikes. Pakistan, meanwhile, relied heavily on its newly inducted Chinese J-10C fighters and possibly Chinese PL-15 air-to-air missiles. Pakistani forces also used homegrown surveillance drones for reconnaissance missions along the LOC. The aerial and drone warfare underscored not only the preparedness of both sides, but also the increasing risk of miscalculation in a high-technology battlefield. As with many conflicts, civilians bore the brunt. Hundreds of families were displaced on both sides. Schools were shut down, public gatherings were banned, and emergency services were overwhelmed in border towns. The specter of all-out war loomed large over millions of lives. The international community responded with alarm. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called both prime ministers, urging restraint and encouraging dialogue through back channels. The United Kingdom issued immediate travel advisories against visiting Punjab, Kashmir, and parts of Pakistan. China and Russia, traditional allies of Pakistan and India respectively, also issued calls for calm, reflecting broader global fears about a nuclear flashpoint. Behind the scenes, diplomatic efforts intensified, with Switzerland and the United Arab Emirates offering to mediate. Another battlefield emerged: social media. Both India and Pakistan accused each other of running misinformation campaigns to sway public opinion. Doctored videos, fake news articles, and deepfake images flooded platforms like X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp. India's Press Information Bureau, PIB, ran an aggressive fact-checking campaign, debunking several viral images purportedly showing Indian aircraft wreckage. Pakistani authorities countered with their own media briefings, dismissing Indian claims and emphasizing civilian casualties. On the night of May 9th, India launched a series of missile and drone strikes targeting 3 Pakistani air bases. According to Pakistani sources, these attacks were aimed at military installations, with India asserting that the strikes were in retaliation for previous cross-border incidents. Pakistan reported that most of the missiles were intercepted, following the intense escalation triggered by India's May 9th nighttime attacks on 3 Pakistani air bases, Meerut, Bahawalpur, and Muzaffarabad. Tensions between India and Pakistan reached a dangerous new peak. India launched a series of drone and missile strikes deep inside Pakistani territory, claiming it had neutralized militant infrastructure allegedly responsible for the tragic Pahalgam attack. In the early hours of May 10th, 2025, Pakistan responded decisively with Operation Bunyan al-Marsis, named after a term meaning the solid structure in Arabic, symbolizing an unbreakable defense. Pakistan's military described this operation as a calibrated and strong response, aimed at restoring deterrence without escalating into full-scale war. According to Pakistan's Inter-Services Public Relations, ISPR, the operation involved coordinated missile strikes and drone attacks on multiple Indian military installations. A major success was reported at an Air Force logistics hub in Pathankot, where multiple fuel and ammunition depots were hit. A critical radar installation in Jammu was also taken offline, and there were confirmed disruptions at Srinagar's command center. Perhaps the most shocking development was a partial hit on an Indian S-400 Triumph air defense system battery deployed near Pathankot. Pakistani drones reportedly targeted the S-400 radar units using precision-guided munitions, while Indian authorities insisted the system remained operational. Defense analysts noted that at least 1 radar array and 2 associated vehicles were severely damaged, reducing the coverage area temporarily. This exposed a rare vulnerability in India's prized air defense network. Pakistan also struck the Bias military storage facility in Punjab, a crucial supply point for northern military operations. Satellite images from private firms showed fires raging at the site, with plumes of smoke visible for kilometers. This attack caused significant fuel shortages and delayed Indian air operations temporarily. Alongside physical strikes, Pakistan launched an aggressive cyber offensive. According to cybersecurity firms, Indian military communication systems experienced outages lasting several hours. Pakistan targeted air defense networks, jamming radar communications, disrupting satellite feeds, and creating confusion in early warning systems. Although Indian authorities claimed quick restoration, the cyberattacks exposed vulnerabilities that rattled New Delhi's military planners. Pakistani officials emphasized that the strikes were carefully designed to target military infrastructure while minimizing civilian casualties. Footage released by Pakistani media showed plumes of smoke rising from what were described as Indian military compounds. Though independent verification remained difficult due to restricted media access in the conflict zones, India initially downplayed the extent of the damage. Indian defense sources acknowledged the loss of some assets, but characterized the attacks as largely repelled and stressed that retaliatory options remained open. Nevertheless, unofficial reports suggested disruptions at several airbases in northern India, leading to temporary closure of airspace over Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir. CNN reported that India, through back-channel diplomacy facilitated by the UAE, sent a conditional ceasefire proposal to Pakistan. The proposal called for an immediate cessation of airstrikes, artillery fire, and drone operations along the line of control and international border. Just an hour before the ceasefire conversations were underway, Indian forces launched an attack on Pakistan's Bolari Air Base. The strike caused minor damage to the outer infrastructure and sadly resulted in the deaths of 2 Pakistani personnel and injuries to 5 others. Pakistan viewed this action as a deliberate provocation at a highly sensitive moment. Despite the tension, both sides moved forward with ceasefire discussions under intense international pressure to prevent further escalation. Later on May 10th, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that India and Pakistan had agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire, following extensive talks mediated by the United States. The agreement aimed to halt ongoing hostilities and de-escalate tensions between the 2 nuclear-armed neighbors. While the ceasefire announced by May 12th brought a momentary halt to the fighting, it remains temporary and fragile. Neither India nor Pakistan declared the situation fully resolved. Military forces on both sides continue to stay on high alert, and diplomatic backchannels are working overtime to prevent a new outbreak of hostilities. As the world watches closely, one thing is clear: the path ahead demands careful thinking, innovation, and a deeper understanding of how modern conflicts evolve. See you in next video. Till then, let's think, discover, and grow together.